Okay, today is a great topic, and it's one that took me a super long time to learn. So I'm so happy to share it with you so you can learn from all of my mistakes. So, our topic today is leaping ahead one tiny step at a time. So, when we go through life, there is big challenges, and often when we're ready and we decide we're going to make this huge change, it can be very overwhelming. And what happens typically is we go out there, we try all the things, we're just like gung ho to go, and then it becomes overwhelming to the point where we end up going back to our old habits. And so today we're going to talk about why that happens and what to do about it. So my grandfather used to say, you have to crawl before you walk, and you have to walk before you run. And I hadn't really thought about what that meant until I came into parts of my life where it was complicated, and it wasn't an easy decision as to what to do or how to move through something. And now coming back full circle, this makes a lot of sense. And being my grandfather's daughter, my mother would say to me, one foot in front of the other. Now, she would say this to me almost every single day when I was going through one of the most difficult experiences of my life. And anyone who has gone through a breakup or gone through a divorce knows this one, where I was just so overwhelmed going through that experience. And, as much as I'm someone that has a positive attitude and really believes that we can get through anything, that was such a challenging time because there was so much to overcome. And so many aspects of going through that were unknown to me. I've never experienced it before. And so every once in a while, I would have a total meltdown. And of course, would call my mama. And my mother would tell me, one foot in front of the other. She's like, wake up tomorrow and just do the next thing that you can do. And one day you will wake up and it will be over. And you know what? She was absolutely right. And now this is something that I use all the time in my life. And it's been such a powerful tool for me. Essentially, what it breaks down to is small actions taken consistently lead to powerful transformations over time. And just to put some facts in here and to get some sources from some science and psychology, the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology reports that people who focused on making small incremental changes in their lives were more successful in achieving their goals than people who aimed for big sweeping changes. They consistently failed more often. Now, why is that happening? Why is it that when you set out to make a big goal, you tend to fail, when other people, when they set small, more incremental goals, they tend to succeed? And really what it breaks down to is our brains are designed to conserve energy. So our brain only takes up about 2% of the mass of our bodies, but it takes up about 20% of the energy that our body produces. So when we think about evolution, and when food was scarce and we didn't know when we were going to get our next meal, our bodies naturally want to conserve energy. So our brains, when it makes changes, when your brain makes changes, it rewires itself, and that takes a lot of extra energy. So the brain is hardwired and designed to not want to make changes. It wants to stay the same as much as possible, because that way it can conserve energy and still survive. Now, what's interesting about that is we don't live in a time like that. Food for most people is readily available, and we have energy available to us at all times. So our goal is to override that programming. So just as like a little bit of science, just like a little touch, so that we can kind of have an understanding of what's going on in the brain when changes are making, is we need to kind of understand what's going on in there. So a synapse is a connection between two neurons. And then a neuron generates electrical signals, and that's how information travels through our brains. And then a neural pathway is a collection of neurons. And when we have a strong neural pathway, that's what we tend to go to. So this is why we create habits, and then we tend to stick with those habits, is because we have strong neural pathways. And so what happens is when we go through that experience and make changes, the synapses disconnect from their connections, and they connect to other synapses, making new neural pathways. And that's why it takes time, because it's literally reprogramming the brain. And so how we do that is a whole other thing. And I call it the butterfly method. And I totally get it, because we're talking about transformation. And ironically, we're going to use the butterfly because, you know, the butterfly is an amazing symbol of transformation. Here is a creature that turns from one creature into a whole other creature throughout its lifetime. And essentially, as humans, we can do that too. So it's super easy to remember, and there is 4 stages to the butterfly method. So this is how we are going to rewire our brains. So stage 1, you're a caterpillar. We're in the caterpillar stage. And so in this stage, you're essentially wandering around, not even concerned about making changes, just eating your leaves, wandering around. And then all of a sudden, one day, you look up and you see this butterfly. And you go, I feel within myself that I can do that, but I have no idea how I'm supposed to change from this into that butterfly. And so you sit and ponder, and then you go into what I call the goo stage. So this is the part where you kind of go into the cocoon and you start wondering, how am I going to make this change? And this is the part where things get confusing, because you're not really sure how to make the change. And so you essentially disintegrate. Everything falls apart, and you don't know which way to go. You don't know what to do. And this is the part where our mind really comes into play. So there is a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. It's a really cool part of our brain. It's the size of the pinky, and it is in the back of our brain. And what happens is when we decide we want something, this part of the brain seeks it out in the environment. So in this goo stage, your only job is to put that information into your mind. Okay, so I have this goal. I want to achieve this goal. And so now when you put that into your mind, your reticular activating system is going to go to work in looking around in the environment to try and find that answer. So in your goo stage, your only job is to be and be receptive. And if a thought comes into your mind to do something, follow it. If you hear something somewhere, listen. And you will notice that it starts picking up information that you wouldn't have noticed before, because it wasn't in your reality. Before, you were a caterpillar and you didn't even know you wanted to be a butterfly. And now you know you want to be a butterfly, but you don't know how you become the butterfly. And so that small part of your brain will go to work and discover ways to become that butterfly. And so once you start hearing that information, what's going to happen is you're going to go into the reconstruction phase. Things are going to start to reassemble. Things are going to start to go click. You might read a book here, or someone says something there, or you might join a course. It's all types of different ways that information can come in from your environment. You might actually have information already or know something, and now you see it in a different way because of your intention, because of what you're thinking about and where you're wanting to go. So at that point, now things start to go together and they start to click. And this happens one little step at a time. And each piece of the puzzle goes click until finally you're a butterfly. And it's like you're on the other side of it. You've had the transformation, and you can repeat this over and over and over. And so from there, what you want to do is take that one tiny step at a time. And as you do, it's celebrating those small victories, because when we're taking those tiny steps and it's happening drip by drip by drip, it is very easy to not see the profound changes happening. What we measure, we master. So it's taking stock every time you achieve one of those small victories and celebrating it in some way, so that it solidifies it in your mind that this is what you want, that this is what you are moving towards. And then that reticular activating system will continue to go to work, because it's like, okay, the mind likes this. It's like, this person likes this. And so I'm going to go to work finding more of that in my environment. And it's really interesting, because now all of a sudden you'll see all types of different things happening, and it almost becomes addictive, because it's like, oh my gosh, what else can I seek and find? And so no matter how small the victory is, it's like, write it down or celebrate it in a way that makes you feel good. And this will give you the motivation to keep going when things are hard. And so it's what we want to focus on is progress, not perfection. Because often what happens is, when you're going through a big transition, you just want it to be over. It's like, I want to achieve the goal. And part of it is going through the experience, because really the only way out of something that you don't like is by going through it to the end. And it's that adage of short-term pain, long-term gain. It's worth going through the difficulties in the time, because the long-term payoff is so worth it. So bottom line is, when we take those small steps, we will end up with the biggest results. So one tiny step at a time, you will achieve whatever goal you go after, big or small. And this way, you will achieve what it is that you're seeking in a much quicker time frame than if you tried to change everything at once.